Hey everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and happy Sunday, December 15th of 2024. I have had a great week and an interesting week as usual, and I have some amazing journaling that took place this week just because my mind was so full of so many things, and I literally walked around with my journal almost every day, all day long this week, because I just had so many thoughts running through my brain. Now, last week, if you remember, I talked about the idea that I believe it's the best time ever to be alive and awake and aware and growing and learning and being creative. And it spurred a lot of conversations with different people who not just contact me through email, but people that I know, my friendship base that watches and then calls me. And this actually spurred a little bit more conversations than usual. And it's not that there was any kind of argumentative, but the thought was, okay, if we have the idea in our head that this is the best time ever to be alive and awake and aware of what's happening, the big question becomes, now what? Now, this might seem like an easy answer to many of you. You might be able to roll something right off the tongue. We just let things be. We stay in a place of love. We stay creative. We stay proactive. And while all those are, kind of a first reaction that I would also say, the people that I talked to wanted to get a little bit more into the nitty gritty of it. So I've actually journaled some amazing things this week. So the first thing, and this was actually what's interesting is after I dropped my message on Sunday, and a few people start watching the video, I already, Sunday is a very much a restful day for me. I usually will go for my walk after I drop this video, or a hike. It depends on what's going on and what the weather's like. And sometimes I'll sit and read. I might prepare for my week ahead, but my journal's definitely a piece of it on Sunday. So the first thing I wrote, just a little bit later in the day after I dropped last week's video, I wrote this: stay aware and on top of everything that's going on. Because to me, that's what I was, my brain is thinking, okay, Jane, if you really believe what you said in today's message of it's the best day. And the thing is, when I get on and I talk about these things and I journal about these things, these are really coming from a very authentic place. This is not something that I'm just saying, okay, what's going to sound good this week? This doesn't ever come from that place. The place that it comes from is truly authentically how I'm feeling in the moments that I'm journaling these and writing them and then talking about them every single week. So stay aware and on top of everything that's going on. And then stay proactive, creative, evolving, learning, and loving. And that's what I wrote. And then that evening, I had an interesting conversation with my husband who 4 weeks ago, he had a knee replacement. So, here we are, twinners. He actually had his first one 5 years ago. Then 2.5 years ago, I had one, and then he just had his other knee done a month ago. So he's in the thick of it. He's in the hardest part of rehab. And if anyone's had a joint replacement, especially a knee, this is a tough recovery. And if you want to get the benefits that you want out of it, there's a lot of exercising and strength and flexibility, especially, that can be really challenging. And sometimes the sleeping is a real problem in the beginning and all of that. So as we were chatting on Sunday last week, I had this thought in my brain. I just kind of started talking to him about it. Think about all of the things that are in place in just the medical system that don't serve humans. And we've known for a long, long time that they don't. So take, for example, and I was telling him this, the idea of testing. And take the idea of mammograms, where we know that there's a ton of false positives. We know that they're very invasive. We know there's radiation involved, and that there's things that accumulate getting tested like this that in a negative way, that over the years they accumulate. we also have known forever about testing modalities like thermography, which is completely non-invasive. So we were kind of talking about this as he was just giving his, he was icing his knee, he had just done some exercises. And I was saying, well, think about this. Think about all the things that we know that are non-invasive medically to humans, but the structures that are in place, the systems that are in place, there would be a whole economic section that would kind of collapse, because what about all the people who sell the machines that do the testing, the ones that service them, the ones that run them, the ones that read them, the revenue that comes in every month? Then you have to completely test these people who, this is the way that they've been trained, this is the way they see the world, and it's this one way. And even though you might say, okay, well, I can see how this testing is not really good, but this is how I make my living. So there was this whole thing talking about that. And my thought that came in, that I was sharing with him, is I would be willing to bet that if there's not already the technology in place to go in and do something like a joint replacement very non-invasively, because think about how fast technology is not only moving, but like, I don't think we have any idea how quickly it's going to happen in the future. And many of us can kind of guess, and we can think about what things are going to change because of technology and artificial intelligence and all of those things, which I think can be a little threatening to humanity, or we can use it to the benefit. I really do believe that we're at a place where we can choose if it's done right. But what I was saying to him is, can you imagine that there's technology right now, even if it's in its infant stage? And then I actually did some research after we chatted, and yes, there is technology that is in process, and the information I could get didn't give me how far along this technology was. But if we could actually go in and do a joint replacement without having to do, cut your knee wide open, move the patella over, and replace the knee, and it was actually a very non-invasive, think how fast the recovery would be. And the fact that we can do so many things already, when we were talking about that, there's a truth bomb that kind of lands in your soul when you feel or talk about something and you kind of go, that feels true. And I don't know how far along this technology is, but as we were talking about it, he was at a certain point, you could see the truth start to dawn on him as well. And he was like, okay, I don't really want to talk about that right now, because I had it the way that they do it, and it's painful, and it's been already, a long 1 month, and it was just the most fascinating conversation that really got my brain kind of spinning this week on all of the things that are coming that could benefit human beings on like a medical level. And I'm as natural as they come. I don't believe in throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I take care of my health, but if I need trauma care, or I need to, I actually probably 10 years ago when I started going through menopause, I had a hormone panel done. I wanted to see what my hormones were doing so that I could add the right natural modalities in. I took a lot of adaptogens. I did a whole thing with that. But to me, this is where we shine. It can shine in testing, but trauma care or replacing joints, especially if people have had accidents, this is the beauty of helping us have vibrant longevity. And so it's not about throwing that out. So, to me, that was it was a really cool conversation. And so then, as my brain really started thinking this week of this, we know it's the best time, the chosen time, our soul's time to be here and awake. And then that big question, now what? Now what? And this kind of was my theme. Anytime I would mull this over when I had a moment when I was doing something that didn't require a lot of brain power, this thought would come into my brain, and I, of course, would sit and write it down, what came in my journal. So I have this great list, and I'm going to share it with you. But first, I want to share this with you. I found this great little post by a guy I follow on Instagram. His name is Thor, and he writes. He has a thing. His handle is called Life by Thor, and I found this great post that he did this week that really went along with my thought process of, now that we're realizing we're here, we're awake, we're alive. Now what? This came in from him. So this is from him. As we watch the world collapse, the only thing we need to remember is this: nothing real can be threatened. Our true reality is eternal and unshakable. It is rooted in love, connection, and therefore it cannot be harmed by external forces. When we align with this deeper reality, we realize that nothing that genuinely matters can be taken away from us. Nothing that genuinely matters can be taken away from us. Ultimately, the chaos and destruction that is occurring in the world is a blessing, inviting you with some urgency to awaken to a higher understanding of existence. When we understand that our true selves are invulnerable and eternal, we can let go of the worries that arise from the perception of any threat. And from this space, and this space only, can we make a positive change in the material world and turn this planet into a new earth. I will tell you that when that little post came in, I was just like, okay. I love it when another like-minded human being takes some of the thoughts that I'm having, and then this just drops into my awareness right at the exact moment that I need it. It's actually very, very cool. So here's some of the ways that I feel like we can align with the deeper truth of who we are, so that we can answer the question individually, now what? These are my answer to the now what. So the first one is that we can meditate on what I call timelessness. So we need to remember that we are endless, timeless, divine sparks of consciousness. And we forget that because this is a dense place to be. So the way we want to do this is we want to visualize ourselves beyond the boundaries of time. Imagine our essence, our divine spark, as an infinite light. So, and I know that as this human being in this reality, it's hard to imagine what infinite looks like and what something that's considered eternal looks like. What does that look like? Eternal means absolutely never ending. I think that's such a beautiful way to walk through this world, is just realizing that nothing can be taken from us. We are eternal. We are timeless. So we need to imagine our divine spark, our essence of pure consciousness, as an infinite light, unaffected by the past or the future. And we need to feel the constancy of our being. So the constant presence of who we really are. So meditate on timelessness. And I've been doing a ton of meditating this last year in particular. And it's made a huge difference in my life that it's hard to describe until you've actually experienced what daily and even momentary times of meditation can mean for your soul, your consciousness, what it can do for you in your ability to thrive and shine during these times. And you're probably a person, if you meditate, you get what I'm saying. If you have heard this forever and you think, yeah, that's great, and one day I'll get to it, I challenge you to start doing some moments of meditation. And this is a good place to start, is meditate on the idea of timelessness. I mean, how amazing is that? Now, the second thing is to practice what I like to call radical acceptance. Okay, now, so what does that mean? Every moment we need to embrace it as it is, instead of getting caught in the past and worried about the future. We need to embrace the present moment. And the key is to embrace it without resistance, right? So don't resist it. I think that we think if we resist it, it's going to make a difference. And that's the whole key, is that it doesn't make a difference. Because you stressing about something doesn't change it. Now, your proactivity, the way that you think and speak because of quantum entanglement, that can actually make a difference. And it can actually make a difference in a negative way when you talk about things negatively and put out negative energy and negative streams of consciousness. That's all streams of consciousness. Just because it's negative, it doesn't mean it doesn't have impact, because it does. So we need to embrace every moment as it is and not resist it. We need to recognize that there are external circumstances that are they're almost like waves. Whenever I talk about quantum entanglement, we speak words of love. It goes out and it reaches the farthest universe that's farthest away from us. There is a quantum entanglement. I don't think we realize the power that we have of our words and our actions and our thoughts. And I have to remind myself of this, especially in times when I get annoyed or I get bothered at something, especially if I feel like my rights are being stamped on and people maybe want more personal information. Like there's a thing that's happening in Utah. It's probably happening in a lot of states right now too, where if you want to go eat in a restaurant that has a bar in it, and maybe there's tables to eat in the bar, a lot of the restaurants now are requiring that they scan your ID to even go in and have a meal, even if you don't have a drink. And I've been alcohol free now for a little more than a year, and so I don't drink anymore. And I get so bothered, I get so annoyed that I have to prove who I am to sit and have a meal. In fact, I've reached a point where couple of my family members and a few friends know that there are places I won't go if they make me show an ID to sit and have a meal. So it's times like that when I have to remind myself not to get annoyed. Like, do what I believe in, but don't get annoyed. Kind of maybe a silly little example, but I don't know if you can relate to that. I'd love to hear. I have this piece of me that's like, I want to be a sovereign human being. I don't want anyone to tell me what to do, or I don't want to have to prove who I am to eat, It's crazy. So recognize that external circumstances are like waves, okay, quantum entanglement. But our essence of who we are is really like the ocean. Who we really are is just an endless, beautiful ocean, okay? So there are external circumstances that are just like waves. We don't let them affect us, right? Okay, now the next thing I wrote is to create a daily ritual. Now I think this is super, super important. I think that rituals can have a massive impact on our well-being because they create consistency and they do create certainty, which I think is a beautiful thing as a divine spark living in this dense world. This can help. To me, this helps answer one of the ideas on now what. Now, what do we do now that we go? Okay, we're awake, we're aware. I know that many of you listening to this already have that question answered. If you do, let me know. Let me know. Say, hey, maybe just answer with "I'm good." Give me a comment about that. I'm good, and I've connected with enough of you to know that many of you are in that great space, and you're living your purpose. You're your divine spark of pure consciousness, and you're going, and I love that. So I think creating little physical rituals has been a big game changer for me. I get up early. I'm usually up an hour, maybe 2 hours before my husband, just because I love getting up early, but I also love that quiet, just me time. I turn on my teapot. I set out my supplements. I always get dressed in my workout clothes because I'm going to work out before I have the rest of my day. And if I don't get to my workout till noon, great, fine. I'm in my workout clothes. But there are these little routines that are really important because they give us that sense of balance. And like I said, security and consistency, which I think is important. If we've got these missions to serve, these routines are a beautiful thing to have in place. In fact, I have not only a morning routine, I have an evening routine. There's things that I do every evening that bring patterns and consistency to my life, and I think creating these are really important. And then I honestly, I wrote this down because I think this idea was given to me by I have a beautiful niece. I have so many nieces, but we had a quiet Thanksgiving at my house, and my niece who's 24 came over, and her roommate came with her. They were just going to spend the day in their apartment, and so I invited them over. And she told me all the progress that she's been making and the self work, and it was lovely to see her. She's busy. She has 2 jobs, and 24-year-olds sometimes are off being really busy. And she told me that she's been doing some mirror work, and I actually hadn't thought about that for a long time. Where you stand in front of a mirror, and you basically give yourself affirmations, and you really connect and try to see in your eyes the real you inside of there. So it was really, really amazing, actually. So stand in front of a mirror and look into your own eyes, and then maybe say some affirmations like this: nothing real can be threatened. This goes along with the whole thing. I am that which cannot be harmed. There's nothing in this external world that can harm you. You, the real you. And so if you get to a place maybe where there's fear of what's going on or whatever, do a little bit of mirror work. It can feel weird and uncomfortable in the beginning, but it's really, really awesome. And I actually have not done that for a super long time, but I do it every once in a while when I'm, because I'm a person who's, I'll, look in front of a mirror. Sometimes, I'm brushing my teeth, but I'm putting my makeup on. And after I had that conversation with my niece on Thanksgiving, I've made a point to kind of look at myself and talk to myself and say a few things. So, if you've not ever done mirror work, or if it's been a while, that's something to jot down. The next thing I wrote is to visualize external challenges dissolving. This one is really powerful. So I'm not saying to say if I visualize it, something really hard that's happening in my life with a relationship, finances, with work, or with whatever. Maybe there's a legal thing you're dealing with. Maybe there's custody things, or there are hard stuff happening for many of us. And I know that it's different for everyone. But there is power in visualizing some of these really difficult challenges dissolving. And it doesn't mean they're just going to magically go away. And it doesn't mean that if you visualize it, they are going to magically go away. But it does change. There's something that changes. And it's hard to describe it unless you actually have experience with it. So here's what I wrote after that. Imagine your challenges as if they were like something that dissolves, like a sand castle on a beach. So you build a sand castle, the waves come in, and it dissolves your sand castle. So make a visual of these challenges dissolving with something like that. So with every wave of your breath, gently dissolve them. This is a powerful practice. And then after you do this, this is the coolest part of this practice. After you imagine your challenges dissolving, then imagine what's left. And what's left is your infinite self, the infinite you. That's what's left. If you take a challenge that it seems absolutely unbearable, and I will tell you, this year for me, 2024, has and this has been the hardest year of my professional and personal life. It's been the hardest year. And if I can say that after this year, and I think that maybe next year, when there are things that have changed and I'm able to share, there's still things that I can't share. I'll be able to, I think that it might give you more understanding because of just what's been happening. But I have found such peace in the realization that whatever happens in the external world can't hurt me. It can't shake me at all. And I will tell you, I know that some of you listening to this have just as hard or harder things that you are going through, whether it's with a relationship, with finances, with your kids, with whatever it is. And if you can actually take this one thing and imagine your challenges dissolving and breathe through them as you imagine them like a sandcastle on a beach, and then visualize what is left. And what's left is you, your infinite self, and no one can take that away. They can't take away the pure, beautiful, divine spark that you are. No one, think about the hard things as Agent Smith in the Matrix. It's a construct that is built up, and they feel real, they look real, they can do real harm to the physical, there's real harm. But at the end of the day, there are these basic real truths to remember that will bring you back to center. And it just reminds you of everything. This one is that I would say that's my favorite. I love that. And then I wrote this. We need to cultivate what I call witness consciousness. Okay, so what does that mean? Here's what I wrote. We need to practice observing our thoughts and our emotions. So we like to think that the things we think and the emotions we have are us. They are what define us. But we need to look at them from a witness point of view. We are witnessing our conscious self having these thoughts and emotions. They don't define who we are. So we need to practice observing our thoughts and emotions without identifying with them. Because I get annoyed at something, I don't have to identify with that. And it actually is really empowering to go, oh, Jane's being annoyed, and look at it from a witness perspective. Isn't that cool? So we need to remind ourselves of this. I am the observer, not the observed. So think about it in the context of a storm. I am the sky, I'm not the storm. So you're the witness, you're the observer, you are not the observed. Okay, that's cool, right? So then I wrote this. We need to anchor ourselves in loving relationships. Friends, siblings, parents, children, spouse, partner, whatever. We need to anchor ourselves in loving relationships. This one I love because we are human beings and we thrive in love. We thrive. So then I wrote this about that. Recognize that love is the closest reflection of your true self, of your who we are, our true nature. When we're engaging with others, me and my husband went to a Christmas party last night, and I did this. So this is cool. So when you're engaging with others, silently affirm, the love I give is the love I am. And to me, it's like when we start to realize these deeper truths and how simple they really are, everything shifts. And everyone around you can feel what you're radiating. You don't have to say anything. You can, in fact, I would suggest that you slightly affirm that. That's so beautiful. The love I give is the love I am, right? Now, the next thing I wrote is we need to write out a reality checklist. Okay, this one is great because I do this all the time in my journal. When I really think that my life is so hard and things are never going to get better, and I hate who won the election, or I love who won the election and can't believe how other people are reacting, whatever. I make myself write down, I give myself a reality checklist, and I write it down. So then I wrote this about writing a checklist. This is a really good way to do it. When you're faced with fear or doubt, write down what you believe to be real in the moment. And this is something I've been doing for probably 10 years. When I connected with Stephen Ozanich, a very dear friend. He wrote The Great Pain Deception. I had several consultations with him because I was having chronic pain that was brought on by emotional trauma. So if you've not read The Great Pain Deception, I'll put a link below. And I've also interviewed him 6 times on this channel, and they're on a playlist on my channel, and you can go read them. But journaling what was real and not real was a huge part of me healing from chronic pain that was caused by emotional trauma. So you can do this with anything. So after you write down what you believe to be real in the moment, then ask yourself this: is this fear aligned with external truth, or is it a fleeting illusion? This is so powerful. And then refocus on what can't be threatened. What can't be threatened? Refocus on that. Okay, now this one I truly love as well. Like, I guess I should just say I love all of these, because they wouldn't have made it onto this list and in my thought process if I didn't love them all. Okay, so this one is kind of fun. Play around with dualities. Now, what I mean by that is, this is what I wrote. We need to explore the opposites that we experience in life. So love and fear, gain and loss, light and dark, painful, pain-free. Like, we need to explore these opposites that we experience, okay? And then after and this is a journaling thing. I love that. Now we can just sit and think about it. Then we need to meditate on how each duality points back to unity and the eternal, what I like to call, middle path. And the middle path remains, you know what? Unshaken. The middle path is just unshaken. It's just there. You've got fear, you've got love. You've got light, you've got dark. You've got cold, you've got perfect temperature or hot. And what's in the middle is unshakable. So play around with the dualities and really think, is this fear I'm feeling really fear, and what am I afraid of? I mean, this is the big now what. These are the big now what. What do we do? These are them. Now this one, see this life as a playground. I will tell you, I have forgotten this a little bit, and I only say that because pre-COVID, me and my husband did a ton of traveling. In fact, in 2019, I took 5 out-of-country trips. 4 of them were with my husband, and 1 was with a girlfriend. A good girlfriend and I, we flew over to Prague for a week. We had a girls' week. It was so much fun. But at the end of 2019, I was a little tired of all the travel. And I said to my husband, I don't want to travel at all in 2020. I just want a year. I just want a year of just staying at home, because I love home. I love my routines. Every time I travel, and I've always loved traveling, but every time I travel, I'm always happy to be home, because I love my home. I love my routine. I love my work. I love my grandkids. I love everything about where I live and my life. And I've been so blessed and lucky to spend a lot of time traveling. And when COVID hit, of course, I'm one of those people who's like, if you're going to make me do this, put a mask on, I'm going to not get on an airplane. And I didn't get on an airplane for 2.5 years, I think, because I'm stubborn that way. I'm a Taurus, and I'm like, no, you're going to tell me I have to do it. If you give me an option and I feel like it's the right thing for me, okay, I'll consider it, or I'll do it if I feel it's the right thing. But this is just how I live my life. And because I've watched the chaos of the world these last 5 years, almost 5 years, guys, which is crazy, I've kind of lost my excitement for traveling. And so I don't stop playing as far as the mountains, outside. This is wonderful. I feel like I live for me, for what I love, and I'm a grounded Earth Taurus. I'm a grounded fixed sign. If you love astrology, you'll know what I'm talking about. but I love the mountains, and I love nature, and I love everything about it. So my soul is filled up on a regular basis. And I think if you don't see this life as a playground, you need to start having more fun. So I wrote this after I thought about the idea of having more fun. We need to approach this life with a sense of curiosity and playfulness. And I think that this is where kids help us and remind us to do that. I also think that once you go through raising your kids and there's all the tough stuff that happens in the teenage years and all that, then you get grandkids, if you're a person who is lucky enough to get grandkids, and then they remind you of curiosity and playfulness. And my grandkids have definitely done that. They're 11 and 13 now, and I wish I was going to have 10 more, but I think that this is the only 2 I might have. But they definitely remind me that. So we need to approach life with a sense of curiosity and playfulness, as if we were an infinite being experiencing a finite game. So I wrote that because I'm like, think about all the people who get to the end of their life and they say, I wish I would have done that. I wish I wouldn't have worked so hard. I wish I would have let myself have more fun. This is finite. This lifetime, like if that doesn't spur you to action, to have more fun, to think, oh my gosh, this is finite, I don't know what will. In fact, it's really been amazing for me to watch my son, Scott, who's got the 2 kids. It's starting to dawn on him that how fast his kids are growing up. And last Sunday we had game night. We had them over for dinner, and we play games. It's one of the favorite things we love to do. And toward the end of the evening, my son was just staring at his 13-year-old daughter as she was describing something, and she's like, what? Quit staring at me. And he's just like, I just love you so much, and you're growing so quickly. And it was the sweetest exchange, because I watched him realize the moments that his kids are going through. You can think about them, you can remember them, you can take photos or videos, but it's the in-person physical moments that remind you of being present, and that this life is finite. So let me say that part again. We need to approach life with a sense of curiosity and playfulness, as if we were an infinite being experiencing a finite game. Remind yourself, this is not my true home, but I am here to explore, to create, and to love. We need a reminder. Oh my gosh, I just got shivers. Like, I literally have just got goosebumps all over, because I wrote that in a moment of, there was pure remembering for me. When I think, oh, poor me, my life is so hard, and I can be grumpy at my husband, and I can be a little sullen around my work team, because I'm just having these moments when I'm just like having my own little pity party. And I'm sure you relate to that. But the crazy thing is this is not my true home, but I am here to explore and create and love. That's why I'm here. Okay, that's my new favorite on this list. This was, like I said, this was a very powerful, beautiful week of journaling for me, because I let that question sit in my soul and think about it. Like, to be alive and awake and aware right now. Now what? This. So then this came in. Disconnect from external validation. We need to not let what others think about us. We need to stop the social media scrolling. This has been, I will tell you, I bring this up all the time because this is sometimes a challenge for me. When I have moments of, I just need to disconnect my brain, or I wonder what's going on. Now, I'm not on Facebook at all, but I have my business. I have a business Instagram, and sometimes I'll go on there and I'll look at comments, or I'll look at, my family members are on there. One of my sisters and her husband are in Europe right now, and they're posting pictures of themselves there. So I'll check in on, my big family, and what if any of them are posting and they're not, just sharing on a text, I'll check in. but I find myself getting caught. But one of the things I really get caught in is on YouTube. And so this is I have to remind myself to disconnect from technology. But the part that I wanted to reiterate here was disconnecting from external validation. So here's what I wrote about that. We need to identify one area where we seek approval or validation from others. So is it by posting something of yourself doing something, or your family on vacation, and I'm not saying anything that those things are good or bad, but are you expecting and waiting for the validation? So we need to disconnect from that, and then we need to begin releasing it by maybe a simple affirmation. And what I wrote is this, because I need a reminder: I am already whole. I don't need anyone else to validate me, and nothing external can add to or subtract from my true self. So that one is powerful. And then, of course, I wrote down expressing gratitude, and then I added to that, express gratitude for the challenges, right? I think we get the gratitude when the challenges are over. So the key here is to express the gratitude while the challenges are happening, right? So view difficulties as an invitation to remember our unshakable nature. Remember that middle ground. With each challenge you have, then this is a really good time to say this. This is an opportunity to realign with love and remember the truth of who I am. So the challenges are ultimately something to be grateful for, and they're an opportunity to realign with your true infinite self. Oh, I love that. Okay, immerse yourself in nature. And I'm actually going to go through these a little bit quicker, because let me see, oh my goodness, we're already past 40 minutes. If you're still here, awesome. And I'm way leaning over to the side, aren't I? Okay, so immerse yourself in nature. And maybe I'm just going to keep going, and this is going to be a long one. This one is easy for me, because this is where I actually get centered. And I think that when we do go into nature, here's a challenge, because I see a lot of people when I'm out hiking or out on or walking my 5-mile loop, which is along a beautiful parkway. Almost everybody has earbuds in or headphones on, or they're not really observing the river. Like, there's a beautiful river I walk along. The way that the trees change, now the trees are all bare except for the evergreen trees. So I don't know if you're one of those people who really observes what's going on in nature. So I wrote this: observe how the trees, the rivers, and the mountains, this is the cool part, are unbothered by external changes. Okay? The weather changes, they're not bothered. They adapt. Every spring, the new leaves come out. They full out in the sun. In the summer, they're full out. In the fall, it gets cold, so they go, okay, I'm going to turn colors, I'm going to drop, and I'm going to stand. In the winter, especially here in Utah, we get a lot of snow. They stand, they get covered in snow. Sometimes the trees get bent over by the snow. If it's a young tree, it might even start to grow kind of crooked because the snow weighs it down for certain amounts of time. And then, to me, those are my favorite trees, especially when I'm hiking, is you can see that the harsh climate and the heavy snows have sculpted these beautiful, beautiful trees into shapes that they would have never grown like. Like, that's a great way to think of it, right? We need to let nature remind us of our own unshakable essence, right? Okay, I'm going to go through the rest of these quick, because I actually have like 6 more. We need to create an illusion buster, okay? So I'm just going to read what I wrote under that and then go through the rest of these. Every time we feel threatened or shaken, we need to write down the illusion that we feel is behind it. And then we need to realize this: nothing real can be threatened. I am safe in love. When I am in love, I'm safe. Nothing real can be threatened. Then we need to radiate love in all directions. Oh, the this one I love. Imagine your heart as an infinite source of light. Send waves of light, send waves of love to people, places, and situation, knowing that love connects you to the eternal. You know, it's so easy to say these words, but to put them into practice is a whole nother level. It's a whole nother ballgame. Then this, embrace death as a gateway. I think for many of us, this is one of the things that we fear the most in this human life, is we're so afraid of death, an early death, a painful death. I know this was something my mom was very much afraid of. She had poor health. She had MS for 46 years, and you know, we all rallied around her and took care of her, and but the last 10 years of her life were very painful, and especially the last couple of years and then the last few weeks when she knew she was kind of at the end, her biggest fear that she verbalized was, it's going to hurt. It's going to be so painful to die. And, you know, I really developed my own thoughts about that. I think that, like, I don't want pain. Nobody likes pain. But I am not afraid of death. I've so reached a point where I kind of look forward to it. I look forward to that gateway, and it reminds me, like I said earlier, to use this as a playground and play more often. That's a whole nother topic, right? Embracing death as a gateway. Maybe we'll talk about that in another episode. Ask, who am I regularly? Like, really journal that. Forgive easily and quickly as an act of liberation. When you forgive, you are liberating yourself from the grudges and all the things. You're not holding that person you don't forgive hostage. You're holding yourself hostage. So forgive. It is an act of liberation. It's also an act of love, but it's liberate yourself. And then 2 more things. Imagine life as a dream. Imagine that this life is just a dream, because in reality, when you transition, you cross over, you die, you are in what's really you are there, and you need to, like, look at this as a dream. And then the last thing I wrote in this great, I had the best journaling, like I said, these moments were just flowing into me. Surrender to the present moment. Be in the now. We hear this all the time. And then underneath that, I wrote this. Practice surrendering fully to the now. Trust that love and connection are present in every breath, every heartbeat, and every interaction. And when you're in those moments, affirm to yourself, I am whole and I am eternal. So this right here, almost probably an hour at this point, 48 minutes. This was my answer to now what? To last week. Last week, to the, beautiful, brilliant thought, now is the best time ever to be alive. Every email I send out on Sunday, even on my Thursday herbal video, the email I started out with, it's the best day to be alive. It's the most wonderful moment to be alive. Like, I really feel this. And I think that it's great to say it and to affirm it all the time. But the big questions I had from a couple of conversations right after that were, okay, now what do we do? So I would actually really love to know what you think about this, and are you journaling? I can't imagine my life without something to write these thoughts on, because partly these would flit away a little bit too. But journal some of these things, and I'll put this little list that I wrote. I'll put the bullet point for each one of these down below this video, so that if you do want to journal on these, you don't have to rewind or go back. You can just write that down, and then maybe journal your own thoughts about it, because there's really true power in remembering who we really are, and that we need to come back to this middle ground and truly surrender to the present moment. So for this upcoming week, which it's the 15th of December when I'm recording this, and we're 10 days before Christmas, And this is always a heightened time for humanity. The consciousness the levels are higher, of higher emotions, love and joy and happiness, because of the holiday season. So you should be able to feel what this, just the collective energy is normally naturally higher this time of year. So this is a really beautiful time to sit and journal these things. And I would love to know what you think about this. So I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your Sunday if you're watching this on Sunday. A wonderful week and an amazing, amazing rest of your year. So we will talk to you soon.